Hello there, this is Wormatty. I'm going to be demonstrating some techniques you can use to quickly make a wooden framework for a building. So let us begin by moving my microphone cable out the way of the keyboard. Flipping Nora. There we go. Oh, whatever, that'll do. By just creating a floor. Selectivity 50 should do. I'll just drag it out to be this size. Boop, boop. Reduce the grid to 32 units. Move that up there. Oh, almost forgot to make sure that texture locking is disabled. Now for scaling purposes, I'm going to place a prop static entity, which is a heavy. Oh, it's building my database models. Gonna wait for a little bit. There we are. Fantastic. I use prop statics because the model that's been selected is a dynamic model, so when the map is compiled, it will be removed automatically. The only thing you'll get is an error in the VBSP section of the compile log, but it doesn't transfer into the game. Anyway, so let us get an appropriate wood material. We want filter wood and keywords TF. Just wait for the material browser to populate. This is kind of like a fake wood, like a panel which is too dark and too simple and doesn't look very nice. So if we scroll down, that's more for floorboards. These are nice, although they're a little bit dark coloured. Again, that's for paneling. It looks slightly shiny. Getting there. Not bad, not bad. I just need something a little bit lighter, I think, since this is going to be kind of pine, I think. I can't remember. It's been not up on my woods. That's not bad. It kind of looks old, reclaimed. So let's... Oh, getting better. This looks nice. That's pretty good. Too coloured though. I want something lighter. What about these? Grain? Nah. Well, we could use it. Wood grain silo. Might be worth a go. What I'd ideally like is a little bit of detail. Grain elevator facade. But I don't want the kind of... I want to avoid having visible places where, you know, there's like offset planks and so on. But I do like the lines. Have I got something that looks like that? Well, I suppose I'll just have to do it manually then. Oh well, okay, well, let's just go for that one for now. I'm not using no draw or a dev texture or anything like that because it's not necessary, and I'll explain why shortly. So now I've selected that texture, let's have a think about the kind of room size we want. So this kind of area here, which is 128, 256, 392? I can't remember, to be honest. My maths isn't working at the moment. Let's have a drag. Oops. 384. There you go. Got there in the end. So we'll just zoom in on that. And ceiling height. Something like 192 is probably a good ceiling height to aim for. Yeah, so if we put our Mr. Heavy there. Maybe a little bit too high, actually. Not too bad, I suppose. We can always lower it if need be. Anyway. Actually, no, let's lower it because we have the cross beams in the middle and we want them to be a kind of around waist height. And if they were at waist height, you'd have a huge gap above you, so... Let's go somewhere around here. That looks good. Okay. So we could do this one or two ways. We could chisel the frame out of this wooden block, or we could just make blocks separately. I think since I've already got this block down, I'm just going to chisel it. So we have a variety of different kinds of beams, don't we? So let's first off do the ceiling beams because they're the largest. So I'll reduce the grid size to about 4. And I'll go to this view here, the front view. I'll chop that up to about that. Looks alright to me. Then I'll do that. Might be a bit too thick, that, to be honest, but we'll see how it goes. And then if I duplicate this, Control C, Control Shift V, number of copies to paste 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not going to be exact, is it? Because I've got one here. So it's easier if I just kind of drag it out, really. There we are. That looks pretty good. So next thing we need to do, I think, is move all these in a little bit by the thickness of our beams across here. I think that might be a little bit on the thick side, to be honest, so I'll drop that down to 6 units. And what's this distance from here to here? That is 60 units. So delete these. Copy, Control Shift V. Number of copies. Oh well, 6 I think, wasn't it? Start at center of original. X front, Y is along this area. So I'll do 60, and I think start as center. Oh well, kind of what we're looking for. Ish. Or not, never mind. I should have just put some guide work, really, shouldn't I? I'm just nudging them using the arrow keys, and that seems to work quite well. Excellent. Perfect. Alright, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to keep those as they are. If I select all of these beams at the top, move them in by 4 units. Oops. Stretch them that way. Now I'll look at their alignment, which I should have done to begin with, to be honest. Alignment this way is perfect. Ish. I mean, you've got the kind of, let's hide that. The line at the top there. Perhaps they could be a little bit better, so I'll try going this way to see what happens. I get a line on the bottom there, so if I maybe actually if I leave that as it is, then that kind of adds a little bit of faux ambient occlusion to the top, but there's still a gap there. So if I maybe select that face and then that one, and then that. Notice that they're all the same alignment as well. I should be able to stagger them actually, or randomize them a little bit by using a feature built into Hammer++. So I'll just, I'll select everything, I suppose would be easier, wouldn't it? Well, people aren't going to see these end ones anyway, so I'll just go up one, just by 1 unit. And then X, I think this is the randomize function. Yeah. Seems to have worked quite well. Nice one. I mean, it's a little bit repetitive, or it steps it somehow, so I'll try it again. And again. Ah, yes, of course, because this is all the same plank, isn't it? So, in order to kind of randomize them, I'd also need to randomize them this way as well. Let's see what happens if I randomize them with Y. Yeah, it's not ideal. I'd have to go about aligning them all manually, so I'll just press Ctrl Z. Stick with that for the time being. Hopefully the lighting will and shading will sort that out for me. So if I look at the bottom, These all appear to be okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of treat these as natural knots and splits in the wood. Leave them as they are. And now it's time for me to do the rest of the woodwork. So... Bum bum bum. Right, okay. Unhide that thing. How do I want to do this now? Let's move this back up. And we'll chop off the end here. Okay, that's fantastic. Hide this. And we'll cut that. And then down here, I think we'll cut that again. It was 6 units, wasn't it? 8 units, apparently. Okay, whatever. That's fine. Oh, no. Hang on. 12. Oh, yeah, okay. That's probably a bit high, but it doesn't really matter because it's kind of out of the player's line of sight a bit, if you know what I mean. Whereas this is more close to the ground, so it's a bit more noticeable. So, I think the thickness of beam that I've given myself here might make a little bit difficult to make realistic kind of upward struts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the reference pictures that I've created earlier and have a look at those. So we've got a beam here which is kind of the same thickness this way as these ones. So what happens if I create another beam which is the same thickness but is a bit thinner on the other dimension? So let's unhide the brush that I cut earlier on, and we'll chop this up over here. What I'll do is I'll chop this one so it's the same thickness, and I'll chop this one so it's a little bit thinner. Yeah, it's kind of square now, isn't it? 4x4. Yeah, it's not going to work. So the only kind of... Try and make this 3 units. That's better, but it still looks too square. So my only option here is to make it 2 units, which I think is going to be a little bit too thin, to be honest. But that might be okay. It might be okay. No, it does look a bit too thin. Alright, let's have a look and see what kind of... thickness looks good. 4x6. That's not bad. That's a bit better. So, can we get away with that being like that? I suppose we can, given that it's a supporting beam. That does make sense. What about up here, though? We've got another beam along the top. Ah, and then we've got a beam on top of that. Okay. Do you know what? I should have looked at the reference material to begin with, shouldn't I? Oh well. Make this thicker. This, I think, needs to be thinner, doesn't it? Yeah. Try 4. Alright. You know what? Given the fact that this is only supposed to be simple detailing, I think it's forgivable to have this plank at the top here. It looks kind of what it's supposed to look like, and that's the main thing. So we'll delete that and drop this down a little bit further, and we'll duplicate it into this corner. And now what we'll do is we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 duplicates, and we want to go from the center here to the next point. So that is 17.5 units. Ugh. Okay. So let's copy that and press Ctrl-Shift-V, and we want it to go Y. Is that right? 17.5? No, it's not. Where? That's weird. Okay, 64. I don't know where I got 17.5 from. 64, and I think I said 64. Yeah, that'll do. Delete that extra one. Move this one in over here. Fantastic. Notice I still haven't got texture locking enabled. That means that as I move the brushes around, they're free to assume the texture rotation, texture alignment, the world's texture alignment, so they move as the brushes move. And that takes care of half your texturing, really, because you don't have to then kind of mess around repositioning all the faces and so on. So I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. I think that looks good. So let's do a little bit of texturing now. In hindsight, it probably would have been better had I textured the first one and then duplicated them, but hey ho, you could just say I'm just experimenting here to make them look good. So what I'll do is I'll go to this one. Now, easy way to make the texture alignment here correct is to select this brush face, hold Alt right click on that top face there, and it wraps it around. That looks great, but I'm wondering if there's any lines built into the texture that I could use. That's 496, so let's do XY, top alignment and bottom alignment. Let's shift that slightly just to see what it looks like. There are lines, but the problem is they are kind of 16 units apart, I believe. So I think it's probably best to just kind of... that's pretty good, actually. I'll go with that. I mean, in game it's probably going to look a little bit weird. See, what I was thinking of was that I could scale the texture down so it kind of fits the face better, so you get the lines. So if you look at the thickness of this beam, it's 6 units. So if we take our calculator and divide, or is it 16 by 6? That's 0.24 scale. Is that right? It's quarter scale currently, isn't it? So it's 512 units. Oh, it's 128 units, isn't it? Yeah, divided by 16. Which I think is 16. So each plank is 8 units wide. And I think I said this was 6, didn't I? So... 8 divided by 6? What? No, okay, 6 divided by 8, sorry. 0.75 the scale, so I need to reduce the scale of the texture by 0.75. So if I take the current scale, which is 0.25, and then times that by 0.75, that gives me 1875. If I select this face and put 1875 in both of those, and then do top alignment, or just 0, and then try shifting the face to see if we get lines. Okay, not exactly what I was expecting, to be honest. Maybe I've miscalculated the number of planks in this texture. Not to worry. Let's just... Is there an undo history function? Let's just undo. Oh, it's going to undo every tick, isn't it? Okay. So let's do 0.25, 0.25. World... Oh no. Or we'll just select right click and to reset it. That's fine. Okay. Stick to that. Keep it simple. Yeah, that works out nicely because this texture is aligned. Okay, so now on the beams we can do more or less the same thing. So if we select this beam, Control H to hide the rest, look at the top, select that one, Alt, right click to the side, and the other side, and then we select this face, Alt right click to there, that face, Alt right click to there, deselect, hide these panels. Fantastic. So let's delete all these other panels that struts that I created, and we'll select this one again, copy it, Control Shift V, 64 units, delete this one, or not, shift all these to the left because I'm stupid, And because they have been moved through space, they've also kind of shifted their texture alignment as well, but they all look a bit weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the faces here, and randomize them on the X. Which is correct, I think. Oh no. Oh yeah, this way, isn't it? So X would be here, X along that way. Okay, yeah, that's what I want. That looks good. And then when I wrap the textures around, that should take care of that. Good. And if I do the opposite with this side, ugh. Fantastic. So that takes care of that. That looks pretty cool. Just align this one here. May as well do the top whilst I'm here. Not that it makes any difference because it won't be visible. This is looking pretty good, I think. So let's experiment a little bit, shall we? What I'd like to do is duplicate this set of brushes to the other side. I would like for them to still be textured. When I move them over here, the textures are going to shift, but they're going to be aligned with the world. But if I do it in multiples of 128, then their texture alignment will still be the same. I'll demonstrate. So if I press Control V and Control Shift V, and then I do X 128, and just do one copy. Okay, we'll do it this way instead. You can see that the textures are the same because it's a multiple of 128. However, if I move these by moving by that much, you can see the textures go out of whack a little bit, so it's not ideal. So instead what I can do is cheat a little bit. So enable texture locking, and then duplicate this set of brushes over here. And then I can flip them. And we look at the texture alignment. That's great, that's preserved the texture alignment, and is it noticeable? I don't think it is, because there aren't really that many defining features, so there aren't really any noticeable areas of repetition. Maybe this. That's because it's been flipped. Well, a better solution perhaps would be to rotate them in the top view, the Z-axis, by 180 degrees. So if I press Control M and then do rotate Z 180, and then I should be able to move that into place with texture lock enabled, then they are different, so that's fine. So then I can create the same set of framework on the other side. I've already got these end caps, so I don't need to duplicate those. It's going to be interesting kind of creating these bits. So what I'll do is I'll select all of the bits here, and then I'll copy and paste them special, start at center original, 1 copy, and then I'll do 180 in the Z axis. And that did nothing at all. Joy. Oh no, yeah, because I want it to be 90 degrees, don't I? Otherwise I'm just pasting them over themselves. Ugh. That doesn't look correct. Start at center of original. Use pivot from selection tool as rotate origin. Okay, I guess so. Rotation accumulatives at 90 degrees. Okay, I think there's a bug here. Control Z. I'll just copy and paste them in the same place. Okay, never mind. I'll place them in the same place by using Control Paste Special. And then I'll rotate them 90 degrees. There we are. So let's have a look at this now. There's a bit of Z fighting. Which is not ideal. See, what I was thinking was that if these two brushes were to overlap each other, they'd make this kind of corner effect. Now, if these were a world brush, then one would actually chop out the other, and that would look pretty cool. I think if you make them all part of the same Func detail as well, then that will also cause them to cull each other. That's very useful. I think from memory, if you have objects that use the same texture and possibly the same alignment as one another, I'm not sure, they get culled. In any case, this is only supposed to be a simple framework, so what I'll do is I'll press Ctrl Z for that, press Ctrl Z again to remove the copy that I made, and I will only select the interior bits. But you know, I forgot about the center joist, or center strut, didn't I? So I'm going to have a look at this reference material again, and that looks to be kind of all the way through. This one doesn't have one though, but the beams are closer together. You see, what I'm thinking is, I want to give the impression that players can't step through this. So these are already quite wide as it is. So a heavy could easily fit through them. So one possible solution would be to move these to the central position, to duplicate them, but I think that would make it a little bit too noisy. Having said that, if I were to put cross beams inside them, then it might give players the impression they can crouch in them as well. I could always have two, but that would look a bit strange. So I think perhaps the best thing to do would have them be every third. I think that's going to have to be something for you to decide. So for now, what I'll do is I'll just create a cross beam. I'll select this one here, and I will just drag out a brush. Approximate central position. Move this over here. Chop the end off. And then, oh, texture locking is enabled. I should have disabled that. Put this into a nice grid position and then stretch it up here to about 4. That looks fine. And then to avoid having to chop this brush up into multiple brushes, what I will do is I will bring, oh, it's half unit grid I'm on. Okay. I'll bring this down to 1 unit grid. See how that looks. It looks a bit square. Let's move that back out again, and I think what I'll do is I'll do the texture alignment on this first. And then I will select these interspersed struts and do a carve. And that did not appear to work for some reason. What the frig? Hammer plus plus. What are you doing? Did not carve. Okay, is there a carve shortcut? Control Shift C. Okay, that worked. Control Shift C. Control Shift C. Control Shift C. Okay, that's kind of worked, I guess. Looking good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now I'll select these bits in the middle and duplicate them over to the other side. Control, oops, C, Control Shift V. Texture locking enabled. Actually, I'll just paste them in place. And then rotate them by 180 degrees. Move them across. Looks good. And then I will select all the brushes in the center here. Duplicate those. Move them down here. See what this looks like. Bit odd. So we will move that into the center a little bit. Yep, that looks fine. Oh, I forgot to move the this brush. That's our end cap, isn't it? I can delete these, can't I? Yeah. Yeah, I should have done that in the first place. Okay, so that kind of works out nicely. These are almost centered. So let's hide heavy. Select these. Move them to the right a little bit, that's fine. And then we just need to trim the ends off. So Control Shift C. Control Shift C. Have Control Shift C over here, I think. Yeah. It's nice to have a legitimate use for carve for a change, isn't it? Ugh. That didn't work. Bye, cool. Fantastic. I'm quite happy with that. Very happy. And I won't duplicate it to the other side because it would be pointless. And this is supposed to be a room, not a prison. So yeah, the only problem here is that you can kind of crouch to get underneath. You might want that at some point though. You can have a section where there's no beam here, you know, that people can get underneath. But I think the best solution perhaps would be to maybe, yeah, drop them down to a third. So 128 units divided by 3 is about 42 units, so I'm sure you could make that work. It would just mean that you'd have a beam every second 128 unit thing here, you know. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, fantastic. And of course, all of this should be Func Detail, I suppose. If these sides are placed against a world brush, they will be culled by VBSP, so that's fine. Same goes for the underneath section. And any faces in the Func Detail will be culled by the Func Detail as well. So world brushes cull other Func Details, and Func Details cull other Func Detail faces that are connected to them. Func Details never cull World Brush faces, so World Brush faces always have the advantage there, you know. Fantastic. So with that, I shall leave this be. I think the benefit of this structure is that it's kind of easier to see through, if you know what I mean. If you have a lot of complex and very thick brushwork, it can block your line of sight of the other side, and it can stick out too much as well. This is supposed to be a simple division. It's not supposed to be this big thing that jumps into your face. You're supposed to be able to see through it, and it's supposed to just be a light blocking mechanism. So I hope you have learned something, and yeah, good.